Ag Life, presented by ADM Lloydminster.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome to Ag Life. I am Gerard Lampow, and on the menu, it's Calving 101. Plus, we have a look at the markets and it's License to Farm, Chapter 5. But first, let's have a subtle shift as we dig into regenerative agriculture.
If I could go back and tell myself 20 years ago,
that advice would be leave residue, don't overgraze, build soil. Steve Kenyon practices regenerative farming. He says work from the ground up.
my definition is we need to regenerate the land so that it can be sustainable.
Kenyon was sharing his experience with ag producers in Neilburg. He says soil grows from the plant.
We run a custom grazing operation. So it's kind of like a community pasture, but it's all on private land. So we have other people's cattle and we run them on other people's land. It's a different business structure than most farms, but that's what works for us.
Kenyon raises the issue of who makes the money in farming.
Wouldn't it be neat if the farmer could actually make the profit in farming?
This graphic showing Canadian farming income from 1926 to 2016 is the work of Saskatchewan researcher Darren Qualman. The green area shows actual farmers' income decreasing over the period of the study. Without using fertilizer and other inputs, Kenyon takes care of the soil through grazing management.
We do a rotational grazing system that builds the land. It builds the water holding capacity of the soil. It encourages the soil life, insects, the biodiversity in the land. That's a big part of what we do.
Kenyon runs about 1,200 head of cattle on about 3,000 acres of land near Busby, Alberta. He goes for yearlings over cow-calf pairs as it's more economical for his operation. He says the job of producers is to build the soil.
Agriculture today is mining the soil. We're taking from the soil, and then we have to replace it. All the nutrients, we have to buy inputs and replace it. That's not my goal. My goal is to build the soil so that it is everything is in a cycle. All the minerals and all the nutrients cycle within it, and livestock are a big part of that.
Kenyon realizes that he's going against the grain.
We're building the soil, right? We're talking about, whether you believe in climate change or not, what we do is we take carbon out of the air and we put it back into the soil, right? Our agriculture practices have been releasing carbon for hundreds of years, right? And the percentage of organic matter in our soils has gone down.
The left-hand side of the fence here, I like that amount of residue left. Okay, the right-hand side, it's grazed too hard.
For consumers, Kenyon says we are lacking in nutrient-dense food.
If a strawberry is grown in soil that doesn't have any micronutrients in it, is it still a healthy strawberry? Right? You're not getting the nutrients out of it. So what we're trying to do with regenerative agriculture is to get all the nutrients cycling so that there is a access for the plants to get every mineral that they need.
It's time to roll our events calendar. If you want to get in on this part of the show, just email me, glampow@newcap.ca. Let's have a look. And still to come, it's Calving 101. Do stay with us.
This segment of Ag Life is brought to you by Webb's Machinery. Webb's Machinery, your New Holland dealer in Vermilion, Vegreville, and Lamont.
Well, some producers are already into calving. I met a vet who's keen on getting that one extra calf in the spring.
The feet first, head resting on the legs.
Dr. Lacey Fowler grew up on a farm in Innisfree. She has been a vet for 6 years and works at an all-female vet clinic in Viking.
Our practice is owned by Dr. Deborah Carroll, and then we have Dr. Prue Maxwell and Dr. Lauren Reiser. So we have all-female vet staff and all-female support staff as well.
Fowler was speaking at the Rural Women Conference on Calving 101, specifically about assisting a cow in the birthing process to ensure the best outcome.
There's so many different ways to deliver a calf, and definitely I think The most important kind of trick or principle is being able to judge when a calf is too big to fit through the pelvis, and just knowing the limitations of the cow herself.
Fowler points out that the cow's pelvis is taller than it is wide.
Being able to help assist that calf get through that pelvis in the least harmful way possible. So whether it's turning that calf to help get the hips out, whether it is knowing that when a calf is backwards, you can pinch off the umbilicus on the pelvis. It's knowing kind of the limitations of the animal and the process so that you can have a good outcome.
Once the calf is born, the other matter is the suckle reflex. Calves need to get colostrum from their moms in the first few hours to build up their immune system, or they risk getting diseases like scours.
If a calf lacks the ability to suck on your fingers, then it's not likely to get colostrum on its own. It's not likely to have the natural reflexes in place.
Fowler says if a calf doesn't have the suckle reflex, then it's 41 times less likely to be able to get colostrum on its own. Without it, a calf is 5 times more likely to die before weaning in the fall. Farmers will have to get it in orally, as the area of the stomach that receives it closes after about the first 4 to 6 hours of life.
The colostrum contains all the antibodies needed to give that calf immunity for its first 3 months of life.
Good luck to everyone who's already started calving season. Time now for the Market Watch, and that's occupying center stage even as bigger issues are looming in the wings. I chat with a market analyst who is staying the course.
We'll hear more about it in 2019.
A positive market outlook still holds for 2019. Market analyst Ann Wasco is breaking down the issues behind the numbers.
And I think, finally we've got some good things to talk about in terms of these trade deals.
Producers are eyeing the Asian markets and Japan, even as trade with the Americans remains at the top. Wasco says strong beef demand and trade are the key carryovers from 2018. Many producers are concerned about moisture and the need for hay, especially to the south. And then there's the big unknown.
We all know we're in an environment where, trade TIFs and tariffs and all these kinds of things can come into a marketplace really quickly, and even if it's indirectly in terms of this China-U.S. issue and the steel and aluminum tariffs, but Canada kind of feels that when things aren't going well for the Americans.
The relationship between the loonie and the greenback and the price of oil and its impact on cattle prices are other factors to consider.
Because we're an export nation on the beef and cattle side, the lower the Canadian dollar vis-a-vis the U.S., it tends to be supportive to Canadian cattle prices, and the opposite if the dollar moves higher. So again, if you're an oil producer, you might want stronger oil prices, but it likely means a higher Canadian dollar.
Another issue is African swine fever that's decimating hogs in China. Concern is growing about the spread of the contagion.
Borders that close because of a disease issue. But in the case of African swine fever that's been discovered in China, that certainly has been devastating to sows, the sow herd, and some big losses occurring. Of course, more than half of the world's pigs reside in China, so this is a big deal from a global perspective.
If there's a decrease in the supply of pork to North America, there could be upward movement for pork prices, which could push beef up. Turning to flooding in Queensland, Australia, losses are over $300 million with nearly 400,000 head of cattle destroyed. Still, Wasco reflects on the stable market prices of 2018 as well as positive demand and trade, with hopes the weather will pitch in to reduce volatility and maintain retail prices at the grocery.
Consumers, we know, are becoming more demanding in terms of what they want and wanting more information about product. But I think we're starting to see, and I think this will continue to happen in 2019 and beyond, is that the industry, answers those questions, talks about, engages with consumers.
And still to come, it's License to Farm Chapter 5, The Credible Voices. Do stay with us. This next segment comes to us from Sask Canola. With numerous battles going on in the world of agriculture, well, this next feature is tackling those hot-button topics. Here's License to Farm Chapter 5, looking at the credible voices.
The family farm, a tradition in Canada going back 200 years. Today's farmers face the same challenges as their forefathers. weather, soil fertility, pests, commodity prices. But today's family farm is a vast and complex enterprise employing cutting-edge technology. From breakthroughs in genetics, communications, and chemistry, we grow our food more quickly with less energy, less environmental impact, and in greater abundance than ever before. But farmers face a new challenge. Consumers and activist groups have called into question, has technology made our food different? Is our food safe?
I hear about the stories and I think about the misconceptions. It's an overwhelming task to imagine how can we educate every consumer in Canada, how can we educate consumers around the globe about this industry, and why do I think that my industry is so important for everybody to hear about.
Farmers are still credible voices. Big Ag is not a credible voice. The biotech company is not a credible voice. But the farmer who lives the life close to the land, producing off the land, understanding the systems they need, understanding the pressures that they have in the modern world, those are the people who should be talking to the urban foodies who misunderstand modern agriculture, not the biotech companies. It's the farmers who've got to come out and defend what they're doing and convince people that they're trying to do the best. They're trying to produce healthy food, they're trying to protect the soils, they're trying to improve the environment. And if farmers don't come out and say this, then somebody is going to step into that void.
I really want to let producers know that they're trusted. The public trusts them. And they need to stand up. They need to get out there and tell their story. And they might think, hey, no one wants to hear what I have to say, but people do want to hear what you have to say. And if you don't tell the story, somebody else is gonna.
I'm a farmer from Mossbank, Saskatchewan. I'm also a mother of 2 farm girls. And I've recently been hired by Farm and Food Care Saskatchewan to facilitate training sessions around the province to encourage other farmers to speak up and talk about the modern agricultural practices we use today to grow food for other Canadians. Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because actually the reality is that 97% of the farms in Canada are family owned and operated.
One of the things I found that worked the best was to start asking them questions. Did you realize I use less diesel fuel? No, I didn't.
I was so unprepared that I didn't have any answers for it.
And I wish I was more informed then.
You just have to be confident, and that's part of what this is trying to do, is build your confidence.
I wanted to get out, and I didn't want to sit at home and complain about things. I wanted to see if I could actually make some improvements.
We've learned how to engage consumers, to tell them what we do as farmers, that we're proud of what we do, that we produce safe food.
If I had to go back and farm the way we did 30 years ago, I wouldn't farm. I know that. I'm not into recreational tillage and the harm that that does for our environment. I'm about trying to make the land better, improving its organic matter and its tilth. Because of these advancements, I'm still interested and willing to farm.
One of the things that I find rewarding is to see that aha moment in people's eyes. Maybe they were confused or upset even. You've given them understanding of the way we produce food and how it's safe. That's what I really enjoy.
I'm proud to be a farmer and contribute to growing safe, quality, healthy products. Try to make a positive impact on the world and practice good stewardship, and we will eat what we grow, and we're proud to do it.
I love what I do. I have no 63 years old with no retirement plans whatsoever. They'll drag me out in the box probably.
Doyle Wade with Farm at Langham. I'm the 3rd generation in the community of our family.
What I'm beginning to understand is that Canadians trust farmers. They actually want to hear from you. They're less concerned about the studies and the science. They're really just interested in why it is I care so much about the food that I grow on my farm operation. And that's given me the motivation to say, yeah, I can participate in this conversation as a farmer.
With every sort of added regulation or policy that gets put into place based on consumer concerns as opposed to scientific concerns, it's not necessarily going to always be the farmer's choice of how they operate.
If farmers don't stand up and speak out and become their own advocates and tell their own stories, this trend of other people telling their stories for them is going to continue, and it's going to grow exponentially.
If farmers don't take the opportunity to speak up about the decisions that we want to make, my fear is that we will lose that privilege.
Generations of farmers have struggled and prospered here, but the landscape has changed, and their biggest challenge yet still remains: standing up to dispel the myths about modern agriculture. Will Canadian farmers make themselves heard before it's too late? Or will they stay silent and lose their license to farm?
And when we return, a chat about insurance on the farm. Do stay with us.
Ag Life, presented by ADM Lloydminster.
When it comes to insurance, what's covered on the farm varies depending on the farmer. Let's have that conversation.
When you want to pick and choose which animals specifically need the coverage, you can.
Cooperators was primarily founded by farmers in the 1940s, so we come from farm. Back in 2012, we revamped our whole farm program to be more in line with the needs of farmers today.
Originally from North Battleford, Vanessa DeRoger comes from a cattle background. She was speaking at the Rural Women Ag Conference in Vermilion about insurance coverage.
On top of our general farm program, we have an excellent livestock coverage program and a farm accident program, including things such as life insurance, financial planning, succession planning, etc.
As more women become farm owners, succession planning has an added dimension.
Right now, the growing trend is that more women are taking over the family farm. So I guess today that's what our primary focus is on, is a lot of these ladies that are now going into it for themselves. That has normally been a primarily male-dominated industry.
That changing dynamic presents new opportunities for insurers.
The thing that makes us exceptionally different in that sense is that we offer a very broad range of coverages, and we're able to customize farm policies. So right now, having that personal touch on the family farm is very important to women today, and because we're able to customize those programs to what their needs are, it's helpful in the long run.
DeRoger encourages producers to take the time to learn about insurance.
Have conversations with your insurance advisor and make sure that you are aware of what you are covered for and what you are not covered for.
We had a couple of those bad storms this summer, and we had 5 animals go down because of lightning.
The entrepreneurial spirit can inspire anyone to do great things. I meet someone who was willing to risk it all to follow her dream.
We didn't have the capital to support that growth.
Started it because of a trip to Nova Scotia that we found this amazing loose leaf tea that I loved, brought it home, decided to start a business.
For some 15 years, Tanya Jashan has been developing a line of steeped tea. Then 6 years ago, the Ontario native made a visit to the Dragon's Den.
We ended up on Dragon's Den, which was really exciting, and partnered with Jim Treliving and David Chilton. And it's been an adventure, an exciting road ever since.
Jashan was speaking to young farmers at FCC Ignite in Camrose, and just like in agriculture, her steeped tea business has had its challenges.
So year 4, we're doing probably about 250,000 in sales. I'm thinking we are on our way to major success, and little did I know that we were $60,000 in debt.
She says her husband caught on to the problem.
he gave me a goal of reaching 500K the next year, and I said, okay, I'll do it. And I hustled it for a year, and I was pregnant with my second child. I had a new 1-year-old at home, but I had to hustle for an entire year. That meant sacrificing time with my family, because I knew that if I didn't, that this would be gone.
Joshana says when it's do or die, you go into adrenaline mode.
You go into a mode of, I'm going to do all I can to make this work. And it was busy. I was out every weekend, almost, every night I was doing something with the business.
Agriculture producers know that life on the farm can be that kind of a blur.
Just being able to pivot to your surroundings. Things have changed over the last 20 years, even in farming, and social media is very relevant, but everything is working really, really fast, and it's just how you handle it.
The ability to manage change was a takeaway for the young farmers.
You look at the growth that the agriculture industry has had in the past 20 to 50 years, and you look and it's going to be so different 20 to 50, even 10 years from now.
Well, that's a wrap on this edition of Ag Life. Of course, we just got lots of producers out and lots of calves. I'm noticing on social media some very interesting pictures. And one lady in Marwayne, Janice Seville, has been making hoodies for calves, would you believe? So we're going to have a visit with her pretty soon. We've also wrapped up our License to Farm series. We do have some of the raw interviews. We will be showing those to you in the coming weeks. But of course, we've got another industry partner on board pretty soon, and we'll be sharing more at Ag Life. We're certainly welcoming your ideas, your story ideas and contacts. You can certainly follow us on Facebook, on Twitter. You can email me as well. You can email us, of course, at tvnews@newcap.ca. My personal email, glampow@newcap.ca. And certainly we can all be a part of it. Well, that's a wrap on this edition of Ag Life. You take care of yourself. Yours in Ag.